All right, I'm going to jump over to data now. Now we break this down in multiple ways: data warehousing, analytics. But for this particular, we're going to break it into a group here. What we're seeing here: database, data governance, data analytics. Right now, data analytics is the lowest. I don't know if that was because of the comments Glenn was making about this is all about real-time streaming, and maybe if demand is slowing, then real-time streaming will slow. But we're still seeing a lot of interest in this space. And I'm going to move towards on this and make it a jump ball. I know a lot of you are involved on the data side, but some of the names that we're seeing with the strongest right now are Cockroach. Actually is at a little bit back and forth. I'm not really sure why, but we've been seeing it rise and fall, very volatile. But we're also seeing other names that are emerging like Calibra, Matillion, Druva. Databricks, of course, is still, huge. But these are some of the names that we've been looking at on the data side. And I'd be curious for you guys, if you don't mind maybe jumping in. We all know who the major players are in data. Besides the legacy, you have the cloud, of course, AWS, Microsoft, they're major players. Snowflake has made a huge splash. Now, beyond that level, what are the names that we need to be looking at that are getting utilization and activization in your organizations? Glenn, I'm going to start with you, please.
Well, let me put in a caveat here. What I have right now, one of the influence is more another strategy that is called data mesh, that I don't know if we are tracking it or not as part of this. Think about through part of my data warehousing change, the way how my Matillion or Fivetran or a Snowflake or any other one that goes and works in the centralized analytical component perspective is more how might change in the way how I'm doing data federated when data mesh, it has been impacted, what Starbucks, for example, is doing in that area, or what other providers has been doing, what components like what Denodo is providing from the data virtualization, or Dremio is giving you in the query acceleration piece. Those are the key players that, for example, are changing my way how I'm spending money around how I'm streaming data, how I'm moving data, how I'm centralizing data from an analytical or data science perspective, and then how I have my requirement change around really my, let's put it this way, the way how I'm duplicating or centralizing data from a system or record availability point of view. So those are the things. Every single other ones, I will say that Snowflake keeps innovating, it keeps surprising me in the level of innovation that they keep doing. For example, now when Unistore, that they are delivering that kind of capabilities, or native type of application, now doing better improvement in the data science component side, putting the Python compatibility that you can have in that area, start competing a little bit more with what Databricks, for example, delivering that space. But the caveat that you have there is how much we as a companies, we would like to continue having data centralization strategy from a master data management perspective, data fabric perspective, or if we are want to start moving more from a data mesh type of a strategy when we have federated those components, and then other set of players are want to be going around where you don't need any more ETL type of tooling like Matillion or Fivetran, or you want to be having more query acceleration providers like what you have when Dremio or Alteryx. So those are the kind of strategies that I'm moving, that I'm still doing data centralization. And yes, we are still having, and as I said, my data warehousing is something that probably going to be impacted if I have to cut it off. But the other area that is going to be impacted, that is my data mesh strategy that I'm driving.
That's fantastic stuff. We're showing here just the analytics subsector. Matillion, Fivetran, you keep mentioning, are both in there. If I move over to more of the database data warehousing names, we're going to see a few others on that. My apologies. We're going to see a few others, names that we're very well known with, right? Cockroach, Postgres, Redis, some of these other ones you mentioned, Dremio. There's a lot here. There's no doubt about it. Jim, I know this is also an area that you live in. I would love your take on this, and we can either do the data warehousing or the analytics side. But what you're thinking right now when we take a look at some of these names on the data side that are leading right now. Matillion is in there, Fivetran is in there, Starburst is really making a big name for itself. On the data warehousing side, Postgres is still the biggest. there's a lot in this space. So I'd be curious to know your thoughts and which emerging names are worthy of being on our radar.
So I think we need to separate out database and data warehouse, right? So Postgres, Redis, MariaDB, those are pure databases. And I mean, you can make them into a data warehouse, but that's not what they're designed to do. So I feel like those three are great intermediate sources of data capturing, but you ultimately have to pull that data into a large data repository where it's centralized and linked with other data sources, and then you can make data insightful decisions. In terms of the data analytics journey, I feel a lot of organizations have already invested in their data warehouse platform, their middleware technology, and then their visualization tool. What's next is really, how do you govern the information in all three of those layers, right? Because a data engineer won't be able to have time to document, catalog, and define what are the fields and what are their meanings. So I see a big interest in terms of the data management side, where companies like Big ID or Matillion taking advantage of, okay, let's help the customer build a data catalog where it inventories all of the key fields and what the data sources are and what are the impact between these the data sources. The other is around governance, security. How do you ensure that the right individuals across the various departments have the correct access on the visualization part, as well as direct data warehouse SQL access. So I really feel the next layer is around the data management governance space, where Big ID, Matillion would play a big part in terms of helping organizations get comfortable with the data management and the governance that's needed on top of their data warehouse stack.